The Army doesn't like more than one disaster in a day.
Looks bad in the newspapers and upsets civilians at their breakfast.
I'm Bill Bupert, retired Army officer and irregular warfare practitioner and scholar. Welcome to Chasing Ghosts, an Irregular Warfare podcast, the show that examines the mythos, lost history, bad thinking, martial malpractice, and government incompetence that informs so much of irregular warfare. I want to peek behind the curtain at the vast machinery and briar patch politics of insurgency and counterinsurgency, and everything in between. Now, let's go ghost hunting together. Hi, this is Bill, and this is simply going to be a brief announcement about chasing ghosts. What I'm going to do now is have a pause of sorts between now and the end of the holidays and the first week of the new year. Then we will return to our regularly scheduled program of fortnightly episodes of Chasing Ghosts. The reason I'm doing this is I want to slow down just a tad to make sure that next year will be just as bountiful and interesting as the previous 2 years, and also because I have launched a companion podcast called WarNotes, a conflict podcast. I wanted to expand my portfolio beyond irregular warfare as a rubric and everything that it talks to, because it doesn't directly speak to, hence the excursions you have seen me do occasionally, it doesn't directly speak to conventional warfare, unified land operations, larger conflicts historically or contemporaneously, what is going on around planet Earth, and possible conflict futurism that I can engage in. So WarNotes allows me to do that without damaging what I consider to be the arcane and exotic portfolio that is irregular warfare. I'm doing this for several reasons. It's been almost 2 years since I started the podcast. I've tried to maintain the quality as I can during that entire time. I want to take a brief pause to regather my thoughts, find new projects to look into and embark upon next year for 2025. And also, as a result of the presidential election, I think that there may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us to reframe, restructure, and reassess America's martial place, not only in defending its own homeland, but in its interactions and Congress with the world. So I wanted to examine that more so on a conventional footing and less so on the irregular warfare footing to which my regular listeners of Chasing Ghosts are accustomed to, hence the launching of the companion podcast, WarNotes, which I can't guarantee will be fortnightly. I'm going to label it as occasional until I find that I can really find the time myself, and also to give you the quality that I think I've delivered on Chasing Ghosts and Irregular Warfare podcast. So during this interregnum in which I will pause Chasing Ghosts podcast issuance until the beginning of the new year in 2025, I plan on hosting a WarNotes series that will examine how we can do what I just described. What can we do from all levels in the American and Western milieu of martial affairs, combat, conflict, emerging regional defense complexes, emerging regional conflict complexes, and those kind of things. So I'll be examining that on WarNotes, a conflict podcast. I would invite all of my regular listeners and some readers of my dispatches on my Substack to join me on WarNotes. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any comments, additions, deletions in a gentlemanly fashion that you would like me maybe to reshoot the azimuth and do it in a way that points in a direction that you may find more positive or fulfilling as far as answering these existential questions of our time. So one of the ones that I will be answering is I will offer recommendations on what has to happen where America has to take a knee. America has to, I would say, withdraw from the world, not so much in an isolationist fashion, but in a non-interventionist fashion when it comes to the exportation of violence. So I would urge all of my listeners of Chasing Ghost, a an Irregular Warfare podcast, to join me on WarNotes during this interregnum and slight pause in Chasing Ghost episodes, and let me know what you think. I wanted to thank all of my listeners and occasional readers for Chasing Ghost, my dispatches, my excursions, and all the things that I've been doing in that particular undertaking. Thanks for the comments, the correspondence, the acquaintanceships and friendships that have developed from that. And I look forward from hearing from you. You may get in touch with me at cgpodcast@pm.me. That is cgpodcast@pm.me. You will find it in the show notes for this particular announcement that I'm making today. And of course, I have my Substack. You'll find that Substack address in the show notes for this particular podcast. So again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your solicitude, and I look forward from hearing you in the future. And also, please, if you find you really enjoy this podcast, leave reviews on your favorite podcast vendor. This is Bill, out.